identify how you're going to create freedom within these 7 psychophysical themes, look at how your body's informing you and what it thinks about your ideas, have a clear set of values to guide you through the year, and no matter how crazy the world is, you could have the greatest year of your life. Hello, I'm Paul Chek. Welcome back to my video blog. Today I thought I would talk about your year in review. It's very important for us to reflect. The soul has 3 qualities: to abide, which means to witness; to reflect, which is based on our memory, so that we can say, what did I do well? Where could I have done better? And then represent is the 3rd quality of the soul. So, for example, if you got into an argument with someone you really love and thought about it later, reflected on it, and thought, okay, next time I'm not going to let myself get so wound up. And so the next time you see them, you represent yourself as more calm and more centered so that you get the optimal outcome for everybody involved. So because a year is it's a significant block of time in our lives. It's a lap around the sun, so it's spiritually significant. And it's significant because it's a year of our life. Typically people, when they go into a new year, I mean, a lot of people, I know I do, start thinking about, what am I going to accomplish this year? How much money do I need to save? Where do I want to go on vacation? Do I want to work for a promotion at work? Do I want to finish my degree? There's always things that we think about, and as we're aging, we think about the stages of our life. I was a child, then I was a teenager, then I was a young adult, then I was a mature adult, and now I'm an older, wiser person. So looking at your year and reviewing it is really an important way to become conscious of the events in your life that, if repeated, would not make the year so exciting, such as losses of jobs, losses of income, losses of businesses, and also the things that you gained and learned and celebrated. And with that information, you can then say, okay, how do I want to move into my new year more conscious? Carl Jung, the famous Carl Jung, psychiatrist and psychologist, founder of depth psychology, said, if you don't meet your unconscious on the inside, your unconscious is all the part of you that's processing information that you're unaware of, and it's Bruce Lipton says it's about 1,000,000 times more powerful than a conscious mind. So Jung says if you don't meet your unconscious on the inside, it will meet you on the outside in the circumstances of your life, and you will call it fate, which usually means you'll blame it on somebody else. Poor me, if only. And then Tweedledee and Tweedledum, and off you go. And then you are more likely to repeat the same patterns, have the same challenges year after year. And that leads a lot of people either into anxiety or depression because they think that the world's just a shitty place to be, but often are unconscious of their creative potential and contribution to the circumstances of their life. Remember, we're always 50% of every relationship we have, and we need to be 100% in our 50%, or the relationship gets deficits in it. Most people don't think about that, but if I'm in a relationship with someone and 10% of me is thinking about something else, there's 10% of me that's gone, and there's 10% of me that they cannot access. So interestingly enough, that turns out to be a 20% deficit in the relationship, which leaves a lot of X factors. So when we go into a new year, it's usually, as the year's tapering down, November, December, that we want to start processing. And I'm going to show you a very simple, structured way to go about evaluating your year and getting clear on what's important to you moving forward. So here I've listed the 7 key psychophysical themes that are common to all human beings. So psyche means soul, consciousness, physical body. So psychophysical means how does my mind interact with and relate to and express itself through my body? And that's, of course, everything you do. So we want to look first at where did we create limitation for ourselves by being unconscious, not thinking about things, not being responsible, not asking what might happen if I invest in this and it doesn't do as well as people tell me it will, and things like that. So where do we create limitation, and where did we create freedom through the choices that we made and the way we lived? And where can we take our awareness of our potentially unconscious behaviors or conscious behaviors that didn't turn out very well but caused limitation for us, such as limitations in our financial freedom, limitations in relationships, limitations with the health of our body, limitations with our creativity, and important limitations that often make us feel very restricted. So as we go through this structure, think, where am I creating limitation for myself consciously or unconsciously? And wherever you had limitation that you think it was someone else's fault, then the review process says, what is my participation? What is my 50% of what it is that that person supposedly did to me? And that is an adult approach to reviewing your years so that you can take an adult approach to creating it. And an adult is someone who accepts responsibility for what they create and the choices they make. So we start at the bottom with safety, security, money, family, tribe. So get clear on what does it mean for you to have a sense of safety and a sense of security in your life. For example, safety, you might be safe because you have a nice home and you're comfortable and you don't feel like, you're threatened. No one's coming to hurt you, but you may have financial stress, and so you could be safe but insecure. You could have money and a home but be feeling that you're not secure about your health because maybe you've been diagnosed with a disease process or you have a chronic illness. So we want to look, where did I create limitation for myself with regard to safety, security, finances, family relationships? Tribal relationships means the people that vibe with you, that you hang out with, that you rely on when you need help, that you ask questions to. So they're not necessarily your family, but they're your tribe. They're the people that you have the most interaction with and value the most in your life. This basically is the foundation of our life and our sense of self, because if there's problems here, they ripple all the way through the rest of these psychophysical themes. For example, if you have problems with safety, security, money, finances, tribe, it'll affect your life force energy. It'll affect how your psychic cleanliness inside, because you'll be carrying baggage. It can affect your sex life because the stress levels can rise up and cause you to lose sexual performance or sexual interest. If you have problems down here, it can trigger insecurity within your sense of self. It can cause you to feel less loved or feel like someone else isn't loving you. It can disrupt your creativity and your ability to communicate effectively. It can disrupt your ability to see into yourself, insight, and it can also affect your relationship with whatever you think God is, because you may think God's ignoring you if you keep having problems of safety and security. So the point is, each of these systems, psychophysical themes, mirror themselves in each other. So all these other ones from 2 to 6, you have some kind of safety and security issue with each of them. You have some kind of issue of energy with each of them. So they're all affecting each other. It's like a spider's web. You can't touch any part of the web without the whole web being affected, which is why these 7 key psychophysical themes are quite critical to understand. So just to reiterate, how did I do with regard to limitation or freedom, with regard to safety, security, finances, family, tribe, and what are the values that I live by? A lot of people don't even consciously have any sense of their values. They just act them unconsciously. And I always tell my students, remember, your yes has no value until you learn to say no. You don't know when to say no unless you have values. If someone offers you junk food and you're trying to get yourself in shape or lose weight or heal or detoxify, and you just say yes, and then someone offers you beer and you just say yes, and someone offers you a dirty, nasty, rotten cigarette and you just say yes, the next thing you know, you can't figure out why you're feeling like crap and looking like crap. It's because you don't have any values. So your values are your own code of conduct with regard to these key psychophysical themes, so that you know who it is that you choose to be, how you choose to represent yourself, and when you're going to say no, because saying yes brings you outside of your chosen value structure, which is how you make meaning. If you don't have a sense of values, that's very hard to make meaning. For example, what does it mean to be healthy if you have no values? Well, you'll probably figure it out when you're laying on an operating table getting a tumor cut out of you. But that's a bit late. So then we go to the second psychophysical theme. Libido means life force energy. Most people think it means sex energy, like, you know, how many people can you have sex with before you run out of energy? But libido is really an overarching term for the life force energy, which is our creative energy, our capacity to heal and regenerate ourselves, our capacity to do physical work, our capacity to think, our capacity to solve problems, our capacity for creativity. Really think of libido as the wellspring of life force energy that does everything. Just like if you have a computer that's running on a battery like a laptop, its libido would be the amount of energy in the battery, and if it runs down too low, then the programs start to crash and your computer's dysfunctional. So if our libido's low, you could say our programming starts to crash, and we end up saying, why is my life so shitty and who's doing this to me, not realizing that we have let our libido drop too low and now we're struggling just to survive. And the lower your libido gets, the more your consciousness orients itself to safety and security. You need money, probably from someone else, and you start becoming a codependent on your family and your tribe instead of a contributor, which, if it's a legitimate crisis, that's okay, but if it's not, it means you're becoming what we call a pain in the ass or a drainer, and that's not a healthy place to be. So our next level is libido life force energy, which means taking care of yourself, having high quality water in your diet, high quality food in your diet, certified organic food, managing, you know, what you probably heard me talk about 1,000 times, the 4 doctors. Having a dream, being creative, getting enough movement, eating high quality food that's in the right proportions for you, and getting enough rest and taking time for introspection, looking in, which is what we're talking about. Then your kidneys are on this channel, so you got inner cleansing, and then you have sex, which relates to multiple aspects of sex. Sex at this level of psychophysical reality means, am I at peace with myself as a male or a female? Is the quality of my sex life healthy and good? Do I enjoy being the man that I am or the woman that I am? So all aspects of your sex identity and your sexuality will have psychological effects which will affect your body. And as I said earlier, this is the channel on which we cultivate energy. In Chinese medicine, this is where the life force energy comes into our blood to power our whole body. So we want to look, how am I doing at creating a lifestyle and having the values that gives me adequate energy? Am I keeping myself clean inside? I like to do a parasite cleanse and a colon cleanse, ideally at least twice a year, sometimes 3 times a year, but at least twice a year, because it's just part of good internal hygiene. There's liver cleanses, there's kidney cleanses, there's all sorts of things to do, but it's better to put yourself on some inner cleansing. Good breathing exercises help cleanse. Drinking enough water helps cleanse. Using saunas helps cleanse, because the skin and sweating are both organs of detoxification, as is the lungs. And then you got your urine and your feces that are part of your detoxification system. So look at your cultivation of life force energy, how you use it. Where do you need inner cleaning, or have you done a good job with that? And what are the issues for you around sex? And is it creating limitation for you or freedom for you? Okay, next we come to the third level, which is oriented toward the solar plexus, which is the gland of the plexus of nerves that feeds almost all of our internal organs. There's others that aren't fed by it, but the majority of what digests and eliminates your food is regulated by the solar plexus, which means sun plexus. Why? Because that's the nerve plexus that is responsible for taking the foods that are plant foods that capture through photosynthesis the energy of the sun, and that regulates the digestive system, which breaks down the plant material and releases the life force energy of the sun. So the sun plexus brings the sun back to us, and we don't have the capacity for photosynthesis. So actually the plants are actually an external organ that develops energy for us, and the solar plexus is what converts the photosynthesized energy that we call carbohydrates into energy and resources for our body. So this area is connected to all of our organs of digestion and elimination, with a couple small technical exceptions. So this region of our body is oriented to our sense of self. Who am I? Why am I here? How do I contribute to life? How do I add value to other people's lives? How do I experience the gifts and the love and the wisdom of other people, because it adds value to my sense of self, because I learn and grow from their presence of my life? So am I satisfied with my self-development? Am I growing into and becoming a person that I enjoy meeting in the mirror? And can I look at myself in the eyes in the mirror and say, I love you, you're my best friend, I was born with you and I'm going to die with you, and we'll always be together for as long as we live. And to the degree that you can't look yourself in the eyes and say I love you and have an intimate relationship with yourself, chances are good you will be looking a psychologist or a psychiatrist in the eyes to tell them about the problems that you have. And these things can all be circumvented by just taking responsibility for your own self-development, loving yourself, and realizing what a miracle it is to be alive, and making something out of yourself that you feel good about. And if you feel good, you usually make other people feel good. You know, just like misery loves company, so does joy, so does enlightenment, so does intelligence, so does wisdom, so does athletic ability, and all these beautiful qualities that we can all cultivate. So then we want to look at how is our digestion. Digestive troubles are rampant out there, a lot of which comes from eating food that was not organically farmed. So you're eating glyphosate, herbicides, fungicides, rodenticides, herbicides, emulsifiers, stabilizers, dyes, other forms of coloring. There's something like 160,000 chemicals in the food supply alone, the grand majority of which are toxic. So if you're not paying attention to what you're eating, you will be paying attention to the pain and the discomfort, and you might be famous for how much gas you always have because you're bloated, gassy, and probably have a severe fungal infection and quite possibly a parasite infection, which means that you have uninvited guests that are eating up your nutrition before it gets into your body. And about 90% of the world population, based on research, has both a fungal infection and a parasite infection, which leads to a lot of digestive trouble. How's my metabolism? Am I able to break my food down? Do I have good energy? Does my body regulate its temperature well? Am I cold all the time? Am I overly hot all the time? So that basically deals with the fire element in the human body, the warmth element. And if we don't have adequate warmth, we can't think. If you talk to a hypothyroid patient, one of the things you'll find out about them is their body temperature is below 98.6, usually 97 or 96, and they'll tell you they can't think straight. It just turns out metaphysically that warmth is the prerequisite for thought. Dead bodies are cold and they don't think. So the energy of our metabolism is actually essential to our thinking process. So if we don't protect our digestion and our metabolism, then we won't have full access of our mind, which will hamper our self-development. And since this channel of self-development, digestion, metabolism is the fire system, it provides our ability for action. Somebody who's healthy in their solar plexus is usually quite an active person that gets things done, contributes to the life of others, and has a good sense of self-esteem. This is where your self-esteem lives here. Of course, it's in your heart too, but somebody without a healthy sense of self-esteem usually has problems in the glands and organs and tissues that are related. Remember, wherever you have mental, emotional issues, it shows up in these correlate parts of your body, because those are the parts of your body that handle that psychophysical information. So just like a hard drive stores information in certain regions, these are the regions that the mind mirrors its information into and stores it into the body, which is why there's, for example, why in Chinese medicine there's a correlation between organs and emotions. Because if your liver, for example, is backed up, it's normal to be angry a lot, because that's the emotional effect of disrupting the natural energetic functions of the liver and the capacity of the liver. So remember that your body is not just a vehicle, it's actually a system that contains memory, and it holds on to anything that you haven't made meaning out of or healed until you get to it. The problem is the longer you wait to make meaning and heal, the more that chaotic energy imprints itself into your tissues, and so like attracts like. So if you have angry thoughts, then the tissues in that area or the organs feel anger all the time, and that disrupts their ability to reproduce themselves authentically, and so you end up getting pathological responses in the body. And lo and behold, people that go to people like me or to skilled healers and have their orientation changed, and instead of going from poor me or problem to, oh my God, it's a miracle to be alive and I really want to participate in my life, have spontaneous healings, and things like tumors the size of grapefruits have been able to disappear within a day or two, which is medically impossible, but there's thousands and thousands of books documenting these cases, which would be impossible if our body was not intimately related to the physiological processes of our tissues, glands, organs, cells, and systems. Next, we go to giving and receiving love. So where am I creating limitation or freedom with the way I give and receive love? And we always want to start with ourself, I, and then from there we go to we, and then that would be family, friends, and tribe, and then to all. What am I contributing to the world by being the person that I am? Am I offering limitation or freedom to the world through my existence? And just remember, like attracts like. So if you're offering limitation, you're going to attract a lot of people into your life that will mirror that back to you, so you can look at yourself everywhere you go. In fact, Steiner says when you die, the first thing that happens is you find yourself surrounded by people just like you. And you stay with them till you're absolutely sure what you will never do again. So why not do it now, so that when you do die, you can hang out with beautiful people just like you and say, this is cool. I mean, that's what I'm intending to do. And so this is the channel of giving and receiving love. Simply stated, remember, love is a boomerang. Whatever you put out comes back. It's not if, it's just when. So how am I loving myself? How am I loving my friends and family? How am I loving the world? This is also the cardiovascular system, so we have to look at the health of our heart, and this is the breathing. The heart and the lungs are a system, so we look at our breathing. Most people get locked up in the abdomen because they're so anxious all the time. They hold their abdominals tight, which disrupts their breathing, which disrupts their ability to have normal exchange between oxygen and CO2. And so what happens is when you start holding your breath, it usually leads to anxiety, and you start hyperventilating because the abdominal wall is so tight you can't take a full breath, and it just causes a cascade of problems that ultimately results in people taking a lot of drugs that are unnecessary. It's just a side effect of not breathing correctly, and what makes us not breathe correctly is usually insecurity or fear or a lack of self-confidence or self-esteem or an unresolved trauma. So we want to look at the relationships of giving and receiving love in our life if you want to find a CHEK professional that knows how to assess your breathing, or look at my book, How to Eat, Move, and Be Healthy. I show you how to do that in there. And then ask, how is the physical state of my heart, the emotional state of my heart, and is my heart supportive of my mind or my mental activities or my intellectual aspirations and pursuits? If your heart's not in it, things aren't going to get done. And when your heart's not in it, it usually means whatever you're doing doesn't make meaning for you. Without meaning is like the switch that lets the power flow. If I flip the light switch to the off position, there's no lights, there's no energy. So meaning is like the switch that turns the energy of, I'm interested in doing this and I'm passionate about it, and therefore I'm going to do a good job because there's love flowing through me. Next, we come to creativity and communication. That links to the neck and the arms, okay? And it also links to the mouth and the ears. So to communicate, we have to listen, but we have to speak. And remember, we got 2 ears and 1 mouth, so we're supposed to, for optimal growth, we want to listen twice as much as we talk. Now, that's just a general theme. It's more of a metaphor. Of course, it wouldn't be wise to walk around trying to measure how much time you listen and measure how much time you talk. It just means that in order for us to really communicate well, we have to listen not so much to be what's being said, but what's really being said, which means look at body language, look at facial expression, look at gesture, pay attention to how you feel in your heart, how you feel in your gut, how you feel in yourself. You know, you ask someone, how you doing today? And they'll say, oh, I'm doing just fine. And you know right away they're sending you a double message. You can sense that their words don't match the energy you're feeling. So if we send double messages to people, then they're always insecure about whether we're really going to show up, or whether we're really interested, or whether our love is genuine, or our passion is genuine, or if we're just doing something because we think we have to, or because we want something, right? And that makes people be more cautious around you. So am I expressing my creativity? Our dreams and our goals typically come through expression of our hands. We write with our hands, we make things with our hands, we express ourselves linguistically. 55% of all communication is not by way of word, it's by way of gesture and posture. So how did I do with creating what I wanted in this year we're just finishing? And did I communicate clearly and make it easier for people to support me and for me to support them? Or did I have a lot of challenges because people were confused or said that I said one thing and did another thing? It's very important to be really honest with yourself. And if you're not sure, fastest way to find out is go talk to your mother or your father or your brother or your sister, because they will easily point out where you're BSing yourself, because that's what family members do for us. Then we have, at the 6th level, insight, seeing through. So the 6th level orients to the brain and the pituitary gland, which is considered one of your master regulating hormone glands. And it is what we do when we go into reflection, or we want to think deeply about something, such as contemplating on something. Should I really do this? What's the best way to do this? How do I invest my money? When you're doing a review like this, you're using your insight. It's also the home of clairvoyance. That's where our 3rd eye is. So as we grow spiritually, we start to be able to not only look in, but see through things. We can see beyond the physical realm and see the subtle, energetic, spiritual realms, which is really quite amazing. So we look at, where do we need to look into ourselves and into our relationships? Where do we create limitation by not paying attention to what we were creating? And what can we see through? Like many of us can see through other people's games, for example. And did we lack the ability to see through something that caused limitation? Or did our seeing through give us freedom? And how do we want to continue to do more or less based on our review as we move into the new year? Then finally, at the 7th level of psychophysical integration, again, it relates to the brain and to the eyes. And we have issues of death, beliefs around what will happen when we die. We have the issue of any kind of legitimate transition, like the death of a loved one, birth of a child. Wherever there is a transition, there is a mystery happening. It's called a liminal zone. You know, when a woman goes to give birth, she doesn't know if the child's going to make it, and she doesn't know if she's going to make it. So we're in a transition zone. As day turns into night, we're in a transition zone. As night turns into day, we're in a transition zone. As we lose a job, we're in a transition zone. So when you think about losing a job, it's the death of. A divorce is the death of. A loss of a pet, it's the death of. So we're really affected at this level of our psychophysical being. For example, people that have challenges up here psychologically often end up with headaches and neurological symptoms that leads doctors to thinking that maybe they have some kind of neurological pathology, but oftentimes they don't find any kind of pathology, but they find symptoms that suggest pathology because the energy of their psychic self is trapped at that level because there's something they're not dealing with there. So it becomes like an electrical circuit that short circuits and gets hotter and hotter and hotter, and if it doesn't blow the fuse, it'll burn your house down. So we have death, we have our beliefs about God, and we should look at where they're causing us limitation or where they're causing freedom. To be an adult, it's important to remember any belief worth living is worth challenging. So the most important question we can ask ourselves with anything to do with beliefs about God or even not God is it really true? And if you cannot answer with an affirmative absolutely yes, then it should be considered to be a temporary operating system that you're willing to be open-minded about and upgrade whenever you come to an impasse where you find believing that or acting that way is creating more limitation for yourself and others than it is freedom. And, you know, I don't think I need to remind you of how much limitation, death, destruction, and fighting, and pain, and torture, and child abuse, and sex abuse, and almost every other terrible thing you can imagine is coupled to religion. All you got to do is read the Old Testament of the Bible. It's like a murder mystery extraordinaire and everything else. Okay? And this is the home of our intuition. And intuition is the function of consciousness that provides the information we cannot get from thinking, feeling, or sensation. Those are the four functions of consciousness: thinking, feeling, sensation, intuition. So intuition requires that if we want to get an answer to a really deep question or some kind of a paradox that we can't figure out, then we have to hold the intention of getting the answer to the question, turn it over to Great Spirit or to your soul or to God or to the universe or whatever your highest power might be, and then leave enough emptiness in ourselves that when the answer comes, we're there to receive it. If we don't take time each day to sit in quiet, then we don't realize when the mailman's delivered the answer to our question because there's so much traffic in our head, we could have won the lottery and not known it. So intuition really is a very important function because it gives us all the answers we can't get with the other faculties of consciousness. And quite frankly, I think intuition is the most beautiful because the more you try to do to get the answer, the less effective it is. So the paradox of intuition is you state your intention, you ask the question of self, universe, God, and to the degree that answer is important to you, take a few minutes each day, 5, 10, 15, 20 minutes, to just sit, relax your mind, and pretend your mind's like a mailbox. Leave the lid open so that when the intuition or the intuitive insight comes, you go, oh, there's mail in the mailbox, and there's the answer to my big question. And you'll be so amazed at yourself, so proud of yourself that you figured it all by yourself. And then you can go look up at the stars at night and say, isn't it just an amazing miracle that I can ask this questions and get answers? But you have to participate by leaving the mailbox open and not filling it full of poor me, got to do this, got to do that, or you just keep creating more and more limitation for yourself, not getting answers. And if you can't get answers from intuition, problems, you're going to go to some university professor or some doctor or someone who's going to program you with their beliefs. which could lead you further from what it is that you're really trying to find, but you'll believe it because you're too impatient to ask the highest self of yourself, the God in you, the soul in you, the spirit in you, for the answer. Okay? Now, this top 3 sections of the psychophysical functions are our dreaming function. This is where we come up with big ideas. This is where we look into things, and this is where we express what we want to create. And then we got to get our heart in it, and this is where we ask ourselves, is what I'm creating limitation or freedom? And if my heart's in it, then I know that I'm going to invest libido in it, and I'm going to take action and get it done. So you see, we have to have values. We've got to have enough energy to take action. We need to be passionate about it and not do things that create limitation that we don't want to do, and do the things that we love to do so that we actually naturally have passion. Remember, if you just do what you think you got to do to make a living, then all you do is work every day. But if you do what you love to do, you're making love every day. Making love every day is sustainable. But working at a job you don't like for money because you've convinced yourself that's all you're ever going to get is a great way to imprison yourself, end up with a lot of limitation, and you're going to make a lot of money for the medical system, most likely. Okay, so now that we have this review, we can say, okay, let's look at all the notes that I took as I looked into each of these things, and let's get ready for the new year. 2 things you want to have going into a new year. Get clear on what you must not have in your life anymore. Shitty jobs, screwed up relationships, bad diet, bad habits, whatever it is that's creating limitation and not freedom. Identify what you make an agreement with yourself and adjust your values to be congruent with that you must not have. I must not eat junk food. I must not stay up late at night too often. I must not drink poor quality water and processed drinks like Red Bull or whatever kind of garbage you've been in the habit of consuming. I must not do stupid things with my money. I must be conscious about who I have sexual intimacy with. I must make sure that I'm taking care of my body, my metabolism, my digestion, and my elimination. And I must not spend time in relationships with people that don't reciprocate love and create that natural flow of give and return, which is why I say love is a boomerang. And not loving is also a boomerang. So choose your friends and choose your business associates and your partners and be wise about it, okay? So then you get clear on what you must have. So I must not eat junk food. I must eat certified organic food to the very best of my ability. I must not drink tap water that hasn't been filtered or energized, and I must drink high quality water and invest in a good filtration system and a good vortex system, or one of the good, like an Analemma water wand. Listen to my podcast with Dolph Zantinga. Beautiful tool for charging water. Simple, powerful, effective. So we just get clear what it is that we must have, because doing so gives us more freedom in our life. And freedom is, what is life without freedom? My God. If you want to be a farm animal, then just keep creating limitation for yourself, and you'll be a pincushion and a farm animal. And you'll probably start losing parts. But if you want to be free so you can really be human, then we want to get clear on what we must have, what we must not have. Once you got that clear, ask yourself, what is my dream for the next year? What do I want to do in the next year, next quarter, each quarter of the year? So 3 months, and then each month, each week, and then what are my daily goals? Okay, do I need a mentor? What education do I need? Where do I need to improve my 4 doctors? Do I need to focus more on happy making? Do I need to focus more on moving my body effectively? Do I need to focus more on my diet and hydration? Do I need to focus more on rest and having time to introspect so that I don't keep making the same mistakes over and over again and calling it fate? Then we want to organize our goals for each quadrant or section of the year, from year to quarter to month to week to day, so that we are clear what is the most important goal to achieve. A lot of people write so damn many goals that they're not sure how to go about it, because there's just too much to do, so it just disables them. So the system I teach in my PPS Success Mastery Lesson 3, Goal Setting, the Science of Goal Setting, is always organized your goals with the number 1 goal for any given period as what you must do. The second one would be what you know you should do, and the third one is what you would like to do, should circumstances allow. If you absolutely cannot do what you must do, then you can switch to doing what you should do. When you get done what you must do, then you do what you should do, and then when you get that done, you can do what you would like to do. If you orient yourself so that you go for your must do, you'll find that you will then get the most action in your life and you won't waste much time, and then you do what you should do and you start feeling even better about yourself. Then finally you get to what you would like to do, and because you'd like to do it, it's the cherry on top of the cake. So if you organize yourself like that and you get clear on where you were creating limitation, what you're going to do to convert it into a must do instead of a must not do, get clear on what the must not do because you don't want to create more limitation, identify how you're going to create freedom within these 7 psychophysical themes, look at how your body's informing you and what it thinks about your ideas, have a clear set of values to guide you through the year, and no matter how crazy the world is, you could have the greatest year of your life. I had 2 of the greatest years of my life. Well, the lockdowns were going on and people were all freaked out and going crazy and creating limitation for themselves and believing bullshit on the news and social media and forgetting to take care of themselves and live and love fully, because I have values and I think creatively and constructively, and every problem or challenge to me is just an opportunity. You go to the gym, the weights don't lift themselves. There's resistance there. So you get involved, you have a relationship, you overcome the resistance, you create something positive out of yourself. Sitting there staring at a television, just believing what everybody else tells you, is a great way to become a statistic, and not a good one. So hope you enjoyed my little lesson on how to review your year so that you can come into the new year all set up, maximum opportunity to create freedom in your life, no matter how crazy the world gets. And I know it's possible because I do it regularly. Thanks for joining me. Lots of love. If you enjoy this kind of information, you probably really enjoy my podcast, Living Number 4, capital D with Paul Chek, Living 4D with Paul Chek. Find it on most outlets, and you might like what we offer at the CHEK Institute, CHEK Institute.com. And if you would like a one-stop little manual for how to take care of your body and use your mind and get your life in order, you'd probably really enjoy my book, How to Eat, Move, and Be Healthy, which you can either get on Amazon or at the CHEK Institute, CHEK Institute.com. As usual, I'll come back, share something else with you. I try to put something up every week as my way of sharing my love with the rest of me. See you soon.